Buenos dias. And what language are we speaking? Claro que sí, estamos hablando español. We're speaking Spanish. And the reason that we're speaking Spanish today is that we're taking you on a journey to the country that's our neighbor to the south. And what's the name of the country that's our neighbor to the south? Can everybody say Mexico? Can everybody say Mexico? And our journey today to Mexico begins more than 600 years ago, long before we knew it as Mexico. And our journey begins in Mesoamerica. Mesoamerica comprised what we know today as Mexico and parts of Central America. And in Mesoamerica lived many great tribes, the Olmecs, the Toltecs, the Aztecs, and Mexicas. And whenever the Mexicas would have their celebrations, they would always have music and dance, especially in their capital. So join us as we travel back in time 600 years ago to the land of the Mexica, the land of Tenochtitlan. So if you were alive 600 years ago in the land of Tenochtitlan, you would have seen or experienced something that looked a lot like this. Now let me ask you guys a question. 600 years ago, were there such things as telephones? Computers? Cell phones? No. So when these people, when they wanted to communicate with their friends, they wouldn't pick up their cell phones. They would pick up their shell phones. And they would communicate with their friends by blowing into these conch shells, so that whenever their friends heard this sound, they would wait for a response. And this would be the way they would communicate over long distances, especially when they were inviting their friends to a celebration like we're having today. And when they would arrive in the center of Tenochtitlan, they'd begin to play this drum. This is called a huehuetl. Can everybody say huehuetl? The most important drum for the Mexicas made out of one piece of wood. Sometimes it had lots of carving of an eagle or of a snake, and it had a jaguar-skinned head. Now that word, huehuetl, it's not a word in Spanish. It's a word in the language that the Mexicas spoke, and people still speak this language today. As a matter of fact, we get lots of words from this language. The first word, aguacatl. Can everybody say aguacatl? Aguacatl became aguacate, which became the word avocado. Another word, tomatl. Tomatl became the word tomate, which became the word tomato. And my favorite word, chocolatl. What did chocolatl turn into? Exactly. And do we like chocolate? Yes, of course we do. And we can thank the Mexicas for these words, all these words, and actually even more. Now, something happened to the Mexicas about 500 years ago, still a very long time ago, and that was the arrival of people from the continent of Europe, the country of Spain. They got on big wooden ships and they sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. And when they arrived in what was then Mesoamerica, things began to change for people like the Mexica. Their food changed, their music changed, and their clothing changed. And we have some examples of this to show you. You see, before the Spanish arrived, the Mexica women would have been dressed very much like Alda, with their beautiful huipiles, or long blouses. They would have been barefoot or had leather sandals. But when the Spanish arrived, they brought long, lacy skirts. And when the Mexica women saw the long, lacy skirts, they said, "Woo, I gotta have some of that Spanish fashion." And the Spanish also brought these. What am I holding in my hand? Shoes. What do we call shoes in Spanish? Claro que sí. Can everybody say zapatos? Y cuando vieron los zapatos, dijeron, ay, mira, yo tengo que tener esos zapatos. And they started wearing the shoes. Now, it wasn't just fashion that changed, but also food changed and music changed. Because while the Mexicas had wonderful percussion instruments, they had beautiful wind instruments. They did not have sophisticated string instruments, like my friend Noemi has in her hand. What does she have in her hand? A violin. So if you were alive all of those years ago, when the Spanish first met the Mexica, and you heard them playing music, it would have sounded something like this.
to see how all throughout Mexico, also the shoe became a very important instrument.
Muchísimas gracias. Adiós.